President McMaster, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Regarding President Trump's upcoming visit to China, Beijing says in terms of protocol and hospitality, it will be a state visit plus. What are the expectations from the White House? What do you want to hope to achieve?
Well, the expectation for the White House is, and from the President is just to have the privilege of visiting China. I mean, the President is very excited about it. As you know, President Trump and President Xi have a very close relationship that they developed during President Xi's visit to Mar-a-Lago in Florida earlier this year. And they've been working together, right? We've been working together, our teams have been working together in areas of mutual interest, especially on security, but on economic issues as well.
You have all the access to the President. How does he tell you about his personal ties with President Xi?
Well, these are two leaders who are bound together by mutual respect. They're bound together, I think, also by a sense that we can achieve quite a bit if we can work together effectively on really key threats and problems, but also take advantage of opportunities. And of course, one of the biggest threats these days is a threat to China, the United States, really the world, and that's the threat from the North Korean regime.
And then how are you going to do about it? Because you said time is running out when it comes to dealing with the crisis on the Korean Peninsula.
I think that's a sense that's shared by everyone that time's running out because these programs, the missile program and the nuclear program, have progressed to a point when some of the old approaches, of suspension for suspension or freeze for freeze, we just can't tolerate that kind of an approach anymore. And it's urgent, really, that we build on the agreement at Mar-a-Lago, really in three key areas. The first area is that denuclearization is the only acceptable outcome. The second key area is a recognition that this country, this regime, is now a threat, really not just to the United States, not just to South Korea, not just to Japan, but to China, to Russia, to the world. And the third was a recognition that China obviously is in a very influential position, especially economically. And the President particularly appreciated President Xi's support for the new UN sanctions and the work that China is doing to enforce those sanctions. And we think that, all of us think, this is our best chance to resolve this problem short of war.
I want to talk about this administration's China policy for a little moment, because you have different agencies here, the White House, the State Department, the Pentagon, and also the intel community. Reportedly, they're not always on the same page on how to deal with China. So is there a single united China policy right now?
I think that's fair to say about the United States, right? We're not always on the same page. We come from a culture that encourages individual opinions, and those carry over into government sometimes. But in terms of the overall objectives, the direction that we're headed, there's a very high degree of common understanding, certainly across all of our departments and agencies, involving security and the importance of ensuring that we can achieve peace through strength. That we have a strong, not just a strong military, but strong alliances that help deter conflict. Well, the comprehensive policy towards China would be to identify really areas where we can cooperate effectively on areas of mutual interest and concern. I think that ensuring that the Chinese people and the American people can benefit from free and reciprocal trade and economic practices, that we do our best. We do our best to address security issues, and we have common interests. I mentioned North Korea, which is the obvious one, but also combating transnational terrorist threats that emanate from particular areas of the world. Now, with ISIS about to be defeated, Daesh about to be defeated in Iraq and Syria, for example, losing their safe haven and support base, with more and more effective operations against the Taliban and Haqqani network and ISIS Khorasan in Central Asia, we have an opportunity to improve our intelligence sharing, our law enforcement efforts, our counter-threat finance efforts. And so these are just some of many areas where U.S. interests and Chinese interests are very much aligned and will allow us to work even more closely together.
Very finally, how do you view the just concluded 19th Party Congress in China and the new leadership? Do you see that as positive for U.S.-China relations?
Leave the internal matters to China to evaluate, but certainly the President has a very good relationship with with President Xi, and we have good working relationships, as you know, at many levels across our two governments. And so I know that after the Party Congress that those relationships are very likely to be strengthened and deepened.
Thank you so much, General.
Thank you so
for
much.
the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks.